Tonight's topic, the title is Sleight of Hand. Beware the sleight of hand. And one of the things you do in sleight of hand is you distract people by doing something with one hand, but the other hand is basically carrying out the trick. No, hence this term sleight of hand. So Donald Trump's sleight of hand was, on one hand, he'd be doing something very obvious, saying somebody's from a shithole country. Meanwhile, what he was doing is he was signing executive orders that put money into the coffers of the richest private equity firms. He was taking care of his buddies on Wall Street, such as Schwarzman. Now, who is Schwarzman? Well, Schwarzman's the guy who gave a lot of money to Donald Trump's super PACs. $3 million. Now, Schwarzman served on Trump's White House jobs panel. You wonder, what is a big-time financial trader doing on Trump's White House jobs panel? I thought they just had the guy from Body Armor. He's the CEO of the world's largest private equity firm. It's from my brother, Real B44. Real B44 says, Tim, have you read about this? Dude is a clown. The clown that BB44 is referring to is Joe Biden. And the article is from David Sirota. Biden reversal gives Wall Street a big win. The Democratic president slammed but now backs a Trump ruling that can help private equity kingpins loot retirees' savings. The private equity industry has always wanted to end to private investments because there's money there. There's a lot of money to be made via fees. Beware the sleight of hand. The private equity firms have been accused of deliberately reporting exaggerated returns to harvest fees. Fees! Also, even if the returns were legitimate, this would still throw millions of retirement dollars into an industry that's been sharply criticized for its predatory version of capitalism. Remember, private equity firms do a lot of disemboweling, disassembling, and destroying companies, laying off workers. The antithesis of what a typical worker would want their money to be used for. Advisors could also receive hidden kickbacks. Does that sound like something I would want my 401k to be invested in? I see no upside. I see a lot of potential risk, and I see a lot of other people making a lot of money off of my risk. Others will benefit from this way more than I will. And damn it, it's our money. 401ks from your job. It's all the employees bundled together. But we don't want to be taken advantage of, and we want our money to put to work for us. When the former President Donald Trump paved the way for his private equity donors to skim fees from America's 401k retirement accounts, Joe Biden's campaign denounced this self-executive action and promised to oppose such changes if he won the presidency. That's right, Joe Biden ran on getting rid of this shit. But less than 2 years later, Biden's administration just quietly cemented that same policy. Sleight of hand, Johnson. Dude is a clown. Dude is worse than a clown. Dude is a shyster. He's a sexter, a prankster, a scam artist, a scumbag, con artist. No better than the last one. When former President Trump paved the way for private equity donors to skim fees from Americans, Joe Biden campaign denounced the action, said he would get if he became president. This sound familiar to you guys? When I become president, I'm going to get rid of all of this. When I become president, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And when he becomes president, what happens? He cemented it. There's studies that show you don't make any more money in these types of investments. And there's a lot of fees associated with them that benefit the firm itself, not you. When have you ever benefited from high fees? At the time, Biden's campaign criticized the Trump move, telling the American prospect that the Democratic nominee staunchly opposes regulatory changes that will lead to skyrocketing fees and diminished retirement security for investors. This regulatory action is another example of President Trump's putting the interests of Wall Street ahead of American workers and families. Johnson, sleight of hand. Otherwise known as lies, 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 bold-faced lies. Rather than rescinding Trump's ruling, Biden's own Labor Department appears to have submitted the Trump directive in a new supplemental letter being held by financial industry lawyers. The new letter does include the warnings about the risk of private equity. It avoids rescinding the Trump initiative. On the contrary, it explicitly affirms that retirement administrators with experience evaluating private equity instruments may be suited to analyze these investments for a 401k plan, particularly with the help of fiduciary advisors, investment advisors, qualified fiduciary investment advisors. You mean guys who got perks and kickbacks? It's called a spin. We call it spins, Johnson. Icing on the cake. Joe Biden's election was boosted by $350,000 worth of donations from top Blackstone executives to a super PAC backing his campaign. That's right, Johnson. Icing on the cake. Biden's working on his re-election bid. And what's going on? Well, we're pushing for war. We're headed towards war. What's going on? A lot of performative bullshit, as usual, but even an uptick in that department. And what's going on? Joe Biden doing the same tricks that his predecessor, Donald Trump, did. What's better? The guy that says, I'm gonna do all types of slimeball shit, but I know better than you, so just be quiet and let us do it. Or the guy that says, that's horrible what that guy did. That guy's slimeball scumbag. Yeah, let's go ahead and do what that guy did. That's good for us. Which one's better? Last but not least, this is my kicker, Johnson. The report by University of Oxford professor Ludovic Filippo shows that in the last 15 years, private equity firms generally have not provided better returns to investors in low-fee stock index funds. No more money. No. In the process, a handful of private equity firms and their executives have raked in roughly $230 billion in fees from investors like public pension funds and university endowments. They are playing with our money, they are making money, and we're getting nothing out of it, but being put at risk. This wealth transfer may be one of the largest in the history of modern finance. From a few hundred million pension scheme members to a few thousand people working in private equity. Politicians have enabled this redistribution, Johnson. And that, my friends, is sleight of hand at its best. The type of sleight of hand that makes your usual on-the-block hustle look like nothing. That's what the Democrats and Republicans have been doing the whole time.